The morning light filtered through the lace curtains, casting delicate shadows across the kitchen floor. The house was quiet, almost too quiet for a Saturday. Emma Walker stood by the sink, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee, untouched. She had been standing there for nearly 20 minutes, eyes fixed on the back garden, but her mind was miles away. The screen of her phone, lying on the marble countertop, lit up again with the same notification. New photos added to shared. Drive, Lucas Carter. She didn't need to open them. She already knew what they were. She had opened the folder at midnight, sitting alone in their dimly lit bedroom, her heart hammering as her world silently fell apart. Pictures, videos, voice messages. Enough to kill any illusion of love. Lucas, Sophie, her husband, and her best friend. The betrayal wasn't loud. It didn't scream. It whispered. It oozed into her mind like slow poison. The mug in her hand trembled slightly. She set it down before. It slipped. The memory returned vividly, the way Lucas had kissed her cheek just last night, muttering something about a late client dinner. He had even looked her in the eye, smiled, said, "Don't wait up, babe." And Sophie? The last message Sophie had sent was, "Love you, sis. Let's do a brunch soon." Emma's lips curled into a half-smile cold, bitter. She wasn't the type to make a scene. No screaming, no confrontations. That wasn't her style. She had learned long ago, the most powerful storms are silent until they strike. The sound of footsteps broke the stillness. "Morning," Lucas said, his voice groggy, as he walked into the kitchen, adjusting his shirt collar. "Didn't think you'd be up this early." Emma turned to face him, her expression unreadable. She noticed the faint lipstick smudge on his collar red, not the shade she wore. "I couldn't sleep," she said calmly, picking up her coffee. "You got home late?" "Yeah, work's been insane." He kissed her forehead quickly, almost out of habit. "We should take a weekend off soon, huh?" She didn't flinch. "Sure, let's plan something after the divorce." Lucas blinked. "What?" Emma looked up, eyes steady. "After the divorce, you'll need a break. So will I." For a moment, the room froze. Lucas stared at her as if she had just spoken in a foreign language. "Emma, what are you talking about?" "I've already spoken to a lawyer," she said, her tone matter of fact. "Don't worry, it's all clean. No scandals. No alimony. I just want joint custody of Lily." Lucas's jaw clenched. "Where is this coming from?" Emma took a deep breath. Her fingers brushed against the phone on the counter. She didn't need to show him the proof. "Not yet. I think you know." Lucas opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes darted toward the phone on the counter, and in that fleeting moment, she saw it. The fear. The guilt. Good, she thought. Let it begin. "I don't want to fight, Lucas. I don't want your apologies or excuses. I just want peace." She turned back to the sink, her voice almost a whisper now. "And you've already made your choice?" The silence stretched between them like a blade. Then Lucas muttered, "Emma, we can fix this." "No," she said, her voice firmer now. "You can fix yourself, but you can't fix us, not after this." He looked down, his shoulders slumping. For a moment, he looked like a boy who had broken something he didn't know how to fix, but Emma felt no sympathy. "Not anymore. I'll be staying at my sister's." "For a few days," she continued, walking toward the hallway. "You can stay here. The lawyer will send the papers on Monday." Lucas didn't follow her. He didn't protest Dot just as she expected Dot as Emma packed her suitcase upstairs. Her daughter Lily peeked through the door. "Mommy? Are we going somewhere?" Emma smiled gently. "We're just visiting Aunt Rachel for a little bit, sweetie." "You'll like that, right?" Lily nodded. "Will Daddy come too?" Emma paused, then crouched down to her daughter's level. "Not this time, baby, but he'll visit soon." She held Lily close, breathing in the scent of her hair. This little girl was her reason. Her anchor. Dot and nothing would take that from her. That evening, as she drove away with Lily asleep in the back seat, Emma didn't cry. She didn't scream, but something inside her clicked out. She was no longer the soft woman who tolerated betrayal in the name of love. She had seen enough, and Lucas Carter had no idea what was coming. 2 days later, on a quiet Monday morning, Lucas walked into the law office wearing a tailored suit and his usual blend of confidence and hesitation. Beside him was Sophie, her oversized sunglasses hiding any trace of discomfort, lips painted in a modest pink that tried too hard to look innocent. Emma had arrived early. She sat upright in the leather chair, wearing a crisp white blouse and a simple bun. No makeup, no perfume. But there was something about her presence that made the room feel heavier. A quiet authority. A calm before something far greater. Emma. Lucas greeted cautiously. Emma nodded. Lucas, Sophie. Sophie attempted a polite smile. I just want to say I'm really sorry. Emma cut her off, voice cool and steady. No need. We're not here for apologies. She pushed a file across the table to her lawyer, Ethan Miller, a composed man in his early 30s with a sharp mind and calm eyes. He opened the file, glanced at Emma briefly, as if asking a silent question. She gave the faintest nod. Lucas frowned as he scanned the terms. No claims to shared property, no requests for spousal support. Emma would retain custody of Lily and the small apartment she owned before marriage. You're kidding, Lucas muttered. You're just giving everything up? Emma shrugged lightly. I'm not giving up. I'm returning what no longer belongs to me. Lucas stared at her, confused. Are you trying to play the saint here? The bigger person? Make me feel guilty? Emma smiled, not kindly. Not warmly, but sharply. No, Lucas, she said softly. Guilt is something you'll have to carry yourself. I'm not arrogant enough to cleanse it for you. The silence between them lingered like a storm cloud. Once everything was signed, Ethan spoke. We'll file with the court today. Divorce will be final in 30 days. Sophie clutched Lucas's hand as they stood to leave, but Lucas hesitated. He glanced back at Emma, maybe searching for regret, maybe hoping for mercy. Emma didn't look up. She stood, collected her things, and walked out of the conference room, heels clicking crisply against the marble floor like the ticking of a countdown. A countdown to something Lucas had no idea was coming. That evening, in the quiet of her small apartment, Ethan dropped by with duplicate documents and final notices. You okay? He asked, setting the folder on the oak table. Emma poured 2 glasses of red wine, handing one to him. I'm fine. It went exactly as it should. You know, Ethan hesitated. You could have asked for more. Lucas's lawyer would have agreed to nearly anything. A settlement, hush money. I don't need money, Emma interrupted. I need closure. Ethan studied her for a long moment, reading her face like a map. Or maybe, he said quietly, a beginning. Emma gave a half smile, real this time. A flicker of warmth, but it faded quickly. Maybe, but not yet. When Ethan left, Emma sat alone on the balcony, the untouched wine warming in her hand. She opened her phone and scrolled through the media folder again. Lucas Private, a cloud folder, Sophie had accidentally sensed with their family account. Photos, recordings, laughter. No more tears. Not this time. She closed the gallery and opened her laptop. On the screen, a document with names, dates, email addresses, account numbers. A 10-year archive of trust and transactions. Lucas had no idea how much power he'd handed her, lovingly, carelessly. And now she would use it. The restaurant was dimly lit, designed for whispered conversations and quiet laughter. Lucas sat at a private corner table, a bottle of vintage wine between him and Sophie. A candle flickered between them, casting soft shadows on their faces. You, Sophie said, lifting her glass with a coy smile. To freedom, Lucas chuckled, and to finally being honest. They clinked glasses. Sophie looked radiant tonight in a black silk dress that revealed just enough to make heads turn. She reached across the table and brushed Lucas's hand. "It still feels unreal," she said. "No more sneaking around. No more hiding, just us." Lucas leaned back, smug. "We deserve this. After everything." They didn't know that across the street, seated by the wide window of a quiet cafe. Emma watched them. She didn't come to confront. She didn't even dress to be noticed. A dark coat, no makeup, hair down. The waiter had brought her tea twice, and each time she barely touched it. From where she sat, she had a perfect view of them, laughing, whispering, occasionally stealing. A kiss. A perfectly staged illusion of happiness. Emma didn't flinch. She simply opened her purse, took out her phone, and tapped open a remote server folder titled L&C Holdings. She didn't need revenge to be loud. She needed it to be complete. Lucas had always been careless with passwords. His laptop stayed open in their bedroom while he showered. His emails autologged. His banking apps never timed out. Over 10 years, Emma had learned to notice everything. How he rerouted funds. How he shifted small assets under shell names. How he kept certain documents locked in folders labeled confidential, not Emma. She remembered every password he'd ever used. And more importantly, she'd quietly mirrored his data over the past 2 years. Long before the affair. It had started with suspicion. And now it was weaponized truth. Back in the restaurant, Sophie reached into her handbag and pulled out a small black box. She slid it across the table. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" "Your birthday gift. Early," she said. "I couldn't wait." Inside was a platinum watch, sleek, expensive, cold. Lucas grinned. "You know me too well, better than your wife did." She teased. Lucas laughed, but didn't answer. From across the street, Emma's phone pinned softly. A backup had completed. All financial documents from Lucas's secondary account had been transferred. She took one last sip of her tea, stood up, left a quiet tip, and walked out into the cold night air. As she walked, her phone buzzed again. A message. From Ethan. "Ethan, transfer complete. Let me know when to initiate step 2. Emma, soon, but not yet. Let them celebrate first." She slipped the phone back into her coat pocket and looked up at the sky. It was clear, silent, deceiving, just like the storm she was becoming. 3 days after Lucas's birthday dinner, Emma sat in Ethan's office, bathed in the sterile light of white walls, leather furniture, and chrome accents. Everything in the room was silent except for the soft hum of the printer behind the desk, spitting out the last few pages of a document titled Petition to Investigate Asset Misrepresentation, L&C Holdings. Ethan glanced at Emma as he collected the pages and slipped them neatly into a folder. "You're sure about this?" Emma didn't blink. "I've been sure since the day he smiled at me after lying to my face." Ethan studied her. "This could blow everything up. Not just his reputation, his business. Sophie's career too. She's on the board, remember." Emma took the folder in her hands. Then I mean well. She had waited for the right moment. Waited for the new LLC registration Sophie filed with Lucas. Emma had seen it as soon as it went public. They were planning a new investment venture, using funds Lucas rerouted months ago. What Lucas didn't know was that Emma still had power of signature on 2 silent accounts linked to his parent company accounts. He thought she had forgotten. She hadn't. She simply waited until the paper trail looked damning enough. Later that evening, Emma logged into the secured admin panel of Carter Holdings. Her access credentials had never been revoked. Another careless oversight Lucas made. Believing she had no interest in business anymore, she quietly froze one of the subsidiary accounts. Just enough to delay a transaction Then she sent a copy of the anonymously flagged financial inconsistencies to a third-party audit firm that handled government tenders, the very kind Lucas's company had recently bid for. Back in her apartment, Emma sipped her tea as emails started pouring in. She ignored most of them, except one, to Emma Walker from Internal Auditor. L&C Holdings subject, unusual activity report logged. Dear Ms. Walker, as a former signatory and co-executive, your credentials were used to suspend account number 9821. Under Carter Holdings. Please confirm this action or advise of any security breach. She smiled. No breach. Just precision. Later that night, Ethan dropped by, bringing her some legal documents to sign. You've turned this into a chess game, he said, watching her sign calmly. Emma looked up. It was never love. It was always a game. I just finally started playing. Ethan hesitated. You always were the smartest person in the room, even back in college. Emma didn't reply. He added softly, I hated seeing you disappear into that marriage. I didn't disappear, she said, not looking at him. I became quiet. That's different. Ethan stood beside her a while longer, neither of them speaking. Then he reached into his coat and handed her a flash drive. What's this? Everything. Sophie tried to delete. Her company emails, meetings, personal notes. She's not just sleeping with Lucas. She's been using him and planning to leave once she gets control of the holding shares. Emma raised an eyebrow. Ironic. She's smarter than he is, Ethan said, but she underestimated you. Emma closed her fingers around the drive. They both did. As Ethan left, Emma stood by the window, looking out into the empty street below. The city was asleep, but she was wide awake, and she had just played the first card. It was nearly 11:52 p.m. when Lucas's phone buzzed. Emma. He stared at the screen for a moment before answering. The last few days had been tense. A project halted unexpectedly, his bank account showing strange errors, and one of his investors suddenly pulling out. All small problems, but oddly timed. And now Emma was calling. He picked up, instantly defensive. Emma, what's wrong? Her voice was calm, low, almost too calm. Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to talk. At midnight? It's important. Lucas hesitated. About Lily? No, about us. About closure. That word closure hit something in him. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity. I'll come over, he said. 10 minutes. When he arrived, the lights in her apartment were dimmed, just the soft glow of a floor lamp in the corner and a few candles scattered on the dining table. Emma greeted him at the door, barefoot in a deep blue silk robe, her hair loose. No perfume. Just the faint scent of green tea and something floral. Familiar, comforting, he blinked. You look different, she offered, stepping aside. It's called peace. Lucas walked in cautiously, unsure of what game she was playing. The apartment was warm, cozy, quiet. On the table, a bottle of his favorite wine, 2 glasses, and a stack of old photo albums. Emma poured the wine without asking. I thought we could talk one last night. As 2 people who once loved each other. Lucas sat slowly, his guard faltering just slightly. Okay, they sipped in silence. For a moment, Emma flipped through the albums, vacations, anniversaries, Lily's first birthday. Lucas glanced at the pages, then at her. You really mean this, huh? Closure? Emma nodded. I think we owe it to ourselves to say goodbye properly. Lucas exhaled. I didn't expect this. You expected yelling? A fight? Slaps and tears? He chuckled nervously. Maybe. Emma leaned forward, her voice lowered. Why would I waste emotions on someone who never deserved them? There it was, the edge in her voice, sharp, precise. Lucas shifted uncomfortably. Emma, I know I messed up, but she raised a hand. No need to explain. You made your choices, and I've made mine. They drank, talked, or at least she let him talk. Lucas rambled about how things got complicated, about how Sophie just understood him, how Emma had become distant, always busy with Lily, and how he didn't mean to hurt anyone. Emma listened, nodding occasionally. And when he finally stopped, she asked, "Do you think she loves you?" He blinked. "Sophie, of course. Do you love her?" He hesitated. Too long. Emma smiled, slow and lethal. "You don't, do you?" By 1:17 a.m., Lucas was noticeably tipsy. Emma remained poised. Her wine glass barely touched. She stood up, walked over to the drawer by her desk, and took out a black envelope. She returned to the table and slid it in front of him. "What's this?" "A gift. My birthday present to you." "A little early." Lucas opened it. Inside were printed documents, bank records, shell company registrations, email transcripts, photos. His face drained of color. What is this?" Emma's voice dropped. "It's everything, Lucas. Every transfer. Every lie. Every name you thought I'd never find." He stood angry now. "You were spying on me? I was watching." "There's a difference." He opened his mouth, but nothing came. She took one final sip of wine, then walked to the door and opened it. "You should go now. Before things get worse. Emma, you'll find out soon enough. But remember this. You stepped out of a marriage thinking you'd win, but you walked into a war unarmed." He stared at her, stunned. Emma met his gaze, unblinking. "Good. Night, Lucas." She closed the door. Inside, alone again, she locked the door and turned off the last lamp. The envelope was only a warning. The real strike came tomorrow. The audits, the investors, the media leak, the slow collapse of the empire he built on lies. She didn't need to destroy him tonight. She just needed him to realize he was already falling. Lucas woke to chaos. It began with a phone call from his assistant. "Sir, we've got a problem. 2 of the accounts are frozen, the payment to the check firm bounced, and..." The line crackled. "Our license with the ministry is under review." Lucas sat up in bed, the sheets tangled around his legs. Sophie stirred beside him. "What's going on?" She mumbled. He didn't answer. His phone buzzed again. Another call, then another. Messages piled in, urgent. Audit request from compliance board, private. Investor pullout confirmed. Internal. Breach. Carter Holdings subject to investigation by 9 a.m. The company's name had hit the news. Local tech giant faces financial scrutiny, license at risk. His inbox overflowed, and still he couldn't move. Not really, because he knew. He knew where it all started. At 10:13 a.m., Lucas drove to his office, ignoring Sophie's questions, ignoring the 30 missed calls from the legal team. The building felt colder than usual, quiet, off. People watched him as he walked by, not like before. Not with respect, but with caution. Fear. He stepped into his glass office and slammed the door shut. Then he saw it on his desk, a white envelope. No name, no logo. Just one word, handwritten in delicate cursive: goodbye. He opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a flash drive and a single sheet of paper. Asterisk, you thought I would scream. You thought I would cry. But I watched, I learned, and then I waited. Love is not blindness. Trust is not stupidity. This was never revenge. This was truth returning home. He plugged the flash drive into his computer. Everything was there. All the files he thought were hidden. All the transfers, the illegal trades, the secret investments. The internal memos Sophie sent, planning to oust him once she got the controlling shares, emails, documents, audio clips, even voice recordings of him admitting to falsifying project. Reports. It was devastating, perfectly curated, perfectly timed, perfectly Emma. He collapsed into his chair, hands over his face. This wasn't anger. This wasn't heartbreak. This was ruin. And it had a name. Emma Walker. Across the city. In a quiet corner cafe, Emma stirred her coffee slowly as she watched the breaking news roll across the screen behind the counter. Carter Holdings under federal. I IJAO, and she didn't smile. This wasn't victory. It was closure. Ethan slid into the seat across from her. He had 2 coffees and a manila envelope. It's done, he said softly. The board will freeze his shares by end of day. Sophie has vanished. Her accounts are under review too. Emma nodded. He'll survive, she said. He always lands on his feet. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Not this time. She sipped her coffee. Then it's over. Is it? Ethan asked. Emma looked at him. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to breathe. The first time Emma suspected something wasn't right. It was small. Lucas had left his phone unlocked on the kitchen counter while taking a call in the hallway. A message popped up from an unsaved number. Same place tonight? She had stared at it. A part of her wanted to dismiss it, but another part, the one sharpened by instinct, by motherhood, by 10 years of quiet watching, knew. And so she started paying attention. She didn't confront him. She collected emails, deleted messages, voicemail backups, cloud folders. Lucas had never changed his passwords. He used the same combinations he had back in college. Emma had set them up for him. She mirrored his phone using a private app recommended by a cybersecurity forum. She subscribed to digital forensics courses, took night classes in legal strategy and asset law, all under an alias. Every night. When Lily was asleep, Emma became someone else. She became aware. One afternoon, while Lucas was away on a business trip, Emma found a folder buried in a shared drive. Sophie private. Photos of hotel rooms, documents with both their names. A fake shell company registered under Sophie's maiden name, quietly redirecting funds from Lucas's consulting contracts. That was the moment. Something snapped. Not from pain, but from clarity. The next morning, Emma called Ethan. They hadn't spoken in years. College friends, once close. Before marriage. Before life happened. Emma Walker, he said, surprised. It's been a while. I need a lawyer, she replied. But not for divorce, yet. Ethan listened, then listened more. He didn't interrupt. When she finished telling him what she knew, what she planned to do, he leaned back in his chair. This is brilliant, he said. Terrifying, but brilliant. I don't want revenge, Emma said plainly. I want power and safety. For Lily, for me, and him. Emma looked out the window. I want him to know exactly what he threw away. Over. The next 5 months, Emma built her case. Not just for divorce, but for a surgical, precise dismantle of the life Lucas built on betrayal. She documented financial misconduct, flagged offshore transfers, found witnesses, including one of Lucas's ex-employees he tried to bribe into silence. She quietly encouraged an independent audit into his firm. She fed the press anonymous tips, just enough to stir attention, not enough to trace back to her. All while Lucas kissed her goodnight. All while Sophie texted her, pretending to miss their brunch dates. Emma smiled through every lie and wrote it all down. When the time came to file for divorce, Emma didn't cry. She had already grieved. Now. It was surgery. Swift, clean, professional. And when she handed Lucas the envelope marked goodbye, it wasn't a declaration of war. It was the final line in a play he didn't know he'd been cast in. Back in the present, Emma sat across from Ethan as he sorted the last of the files into a secured archive. It's done, he said. You've covered every legal angle. Emma nodded. I'm not going to jail for him. You're not even going to court. Ethan smiled. You're free. She didn't smile back, because freedom, real freedom, wasn't loud, it was quiet, and it tasted like silence. Asterisk Lucas hadn't slept, he had spent the night staring at the city skyline from his penthouse window, watching the lights flicker out one by one, as if the world itself was turning its back on him. His phone buzzed again. Missed call. Board chairman, unread email. Suspension. Notification, personal, Sophie, we need to talk. He didn't answer any of them. The glass in his hand trembled slightly as he sipped the last of a now warm whiskey. It didn't burn anymore. Nothing did. He had built everything, the company. The connections. The carefully curated image of a man. In control. Now, in less than 48 hours, it was all crumbling. Licenses revoked. Accounts frozen. His publicist had called in a panic. Reporters were circling like vultures. Even his mother had left a voicemail that ended in a sob. And worst of all, Sophie was gone. She had disappeared sometime in the early morning. No note, no message. Her phone off. Her apartment, empty. Cowardice, he realized. She hadn't loved him. Not really. She loved the illusion he offered, and now that it shattered, she ran. Lucas stumbled into the bathroom, splashing cold water. On his face, he looked at his reflection, not the confident CEO, not the smooth-talking husband, not the lover, just a man, tired, betrayed. And suddenly, deeply. Alone. 10 a.m. His liar called. He let it go to voicemail. Lucas, we've got a hearing. Someone filed a formal complaint with the Securities Commission. You're under official investigation. We can delay it, but you'll need to surrender control of the board temporarily. And he shut off the phone. Then silence, real silence. He wandered to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at the row of untouched wine bottles Emma once loved. She used to make fun of his taste, said it was too expensive for people who didn't know how to taste the difference. He used to laugh at that. Now, it echoed. Empty, pointless. Then he saw it, sitting quietly on the kitchen island. Plain white envelope. He hadn't noticed it the night before. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single Polaroid photo, faded at the edges. It was him and Emma, holding Lily, standing in front of a Christmas tree. All three of them smiling, genuine, alive. On the back, in Emma's handwriting, you had a home. You had love. You just didn't recognize it until it was gone. Lucas sat down, hard. The letter slipped from his hand. And for the first time in years, he cried. He cried for the woman he betrayed, for the child he neglected, for the life he let rot while chasing something that was never real. Across the city, Emma helped Lily into her jacket as they prepared to leave for school. Mommy, Lily asked, will I see Daddy today? Emma paused, smiled gently. Not today, sweetie. Tomorrow. Emma knelt down. Maybe, when he's ready. Lily nodded, content. With that. As they stepped outside, the sun was rising. Soft, quiet, golden. And behind her, Emma didn't look back. It was a rainy Thursday when Lucas showed up at Emma's apartment. No warning. No call. Just him. Standing at her door, soaked, eyes hollow from nights of little sleep and too many regrets. Emma opened the door and looked at him for a moment, her face unreadable. Lucas, I didn't know where else to go. You could have gone anywhere, she replied softly, but you came here. He stood there, dripping, holding nothing, wearing the same coat he always wore when traveling, the one she had once mended without telling him. She stepped aside. Come in. Just don't expect warmth. Lucas entered cautiously. The apartment still smelled faintly of lavender and something like home. But it wasn't his anymore. It never had been. Emma made tea. She didn't ask what he wanted. She set the cup in front of him at the kitchen table and sat across. For a long while, neither spoke. The silence between them was not heavy. It was honest. Finally. Lucas cleared his throat. I don't know where to begin. Emma sipped her tea. Try the truth. He exhaled. I thought you'd fall apart. After the affair. After the divorce, I thought you'd be devastated. Emma tilted her head slightly. Why? He hesitated. Because you loved me. She nodded. I did. Fully, completely, stupidly. Maybe. Lucas looked down at his hands, and I didn't deserve it. Emma said nothing. I kept thinking, Lucas continued, about the way you looked at me in that meeting with the lawyer. You didn't even flinch. That scared me more than yelling would have. Emma smiled faintly. That was the point. He looked at her then, really looked. There was no hatred in her eyes. No warmth. Either. Just. Got clarity. I came here, he said, voice low, not to ask for forgiveness. I know I burned that bridge. I just needed to ask one thing. Emma, set her cup down. Go on. When did you become her? The woman who could do what you did. Destroy me. Perfectly. She considered that. I didn't become her, she answered. I always was. You just never looked deep enough. Lucas closed his eyes. A flash of memory. Emma reading late at night while he scrolled his phone. Emma quietly fixing the mistakes in his quarterly reports. Emma pulling strings with investors while he took credit. She hadn't been weak. She had been convenient. Until. She wasn't. I'm sorry, he whispered. Emma didn't smile. She didn't soften, but her voice was gentle when she replied, I know. She stood, walked to the door, opened it. Lucas followed. At the threshold, he turned to her. Will Lily know? Emma looked up at him. She know the truth, but not the ugliness. That's yours to carry, not hers. Lucas nodded, swallowing thick. Thank you. Emma met his eyes one last time. Goodbye, Lucas. And this time, he was the one left outside in the rain. Asterisk. The rain had stopped by morning. Emma stood by her apartment window, watching soft light wash over the street. Lily was still asleep in the other room, curled under her favorite blanket, breathing peacefully. The city outside was slow, washed clean for a moment, just long enough to imagine something new. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, are you free for lunch? There's something I want to show you. They met at a quiet rooftop cafe overlooking the river. The wind was cool, the sky clear. Ethan was already there, a folder on the table beside his coffee. You look tired, he said as she sat down. I saw Lucas last night, she replied. He nodded, unsurprised. Closure? Maybe, Emma said. Or maybe just ending the silence. Ethan pushed the folder toward her. This might be a beginning instead. Inside was a job offer. Senior strategy consultant. Flexible schedule, remote first, high-level clients. Independent contracts. Emma flipped through the pages, then looked up at him. I didn't ask for this. I know, Ethan said. But I've watched you rebuild yourself with more precision than most CEOs I've worked with. You have the mind, the calm, the edge. You just never used it for yourself before. Emma looked down at the paper again. A new path. No longer someone's wife, no longer someone's shadow. Just Emma. And if I say yes? She asked. Ethan smiled, soft and real. Then we work together. I mentor you if you want. I stay out of your way if you don't, but either way, it's your name on the door this time. She laughed, a real, unexpected laugh. That's dangerously tempting. He leaned forward slightly, more serious now. And if I say something else? Emma raised an eyebrow. What if I said I don't just want to work with you? The table went quiet. The breeze moved gently between them. I thought we left that behind in college, she said quietly. We did, Ethan replied. But maybe it was the wrong time then. And maybe now isn't perfect either, but at least now you know who you are. Emma didn't answer right away. She didn't owe anyone quick answers anymore. She looked out over the river, sunlight dancing. Across the water dot so many choices, but this one, for once, wasn't about survival. Or revenge. Or fear dot, it was about freedom dot and what she did with it. She turned back to Ethan, smiling just slightly. Lunch first, she said. Then we'll see. Ethan laughed. Deal. As they talked, the world around them carried on. Ordinary, messy, beautiful. Emma didn't know exactly what tomorrow looked like, but she knew this. She had burned the past. She had buried the pain. And now she was ready to begin. 5 years later, autumn, leaves danced lazily across the sidewalk as Lily skipped ahead in her school uniform, her backpack bouncing with every joyful step. Emma followed behind, coffee in hand, scarf wrapped snug around her neck. The city had changed in 5 years. So had she. No more whispered names. No more headlines. No more Lucas. He had faded into the background. A man now known for one fall. Not the empire before it. Emma had risen quietly, not through noise. Through work, consultant, speaker, advocate for women in silent war zones, homes, offices, marriages. She was invited, respected, and most unexpectedly loved. By Lily. And yes, by Ethan. That night, curled up on the couch, Lily asked, Mom, were you ever scared? Emma blinked. When, sweetheart? When you had to do big things, alone. Emma looked at her daughter, so much of her father's eyes, but none of his silence. Lily was brave in a way Emma only discovered later in life. I was, Emma said honestly, but I did them anyway. Why? Emma smiled, brushing hair from Lily's forehead, because I remembered something important. What? That. No one is coming to save you, she said softly. But if you're lucky, one day you'll look in the mirror and realize you already have. Lily didn't fully understand, but one day she would. Later that night, when the apartment was quiet and the lights dimmed, Emma stood on the balcony, looking out over the city that once held so much of her pain. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't broken. She was whole. The stars blinked faintly above the skyline. And for the first time in years, Emma whispered to the dark, thank you. Not to Lucas, not to the past, but to herself. For surviving, for enduring, for choosing not to disappear. Her name was Emma, and she had never really left.